Hey, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2, or PF2. I love PF2, and as a longtime player of D&D, I want to share the things that I find along the way, even if they're weird and creepy. Maybe especially so. So, a little while ago, I had the honor of playing in a one-player PF2 game run by GM Rufus, link in the description, where I got to play a hag. Well, essentially, a hag. It was a first-level witch. She was a bog witch that lives in a swamp and protects her home with nasty claws, and she eats rotted flesh. So, you know, a hag. So I'm happy to present Hagatha Slugslime to you, a 6th-level witch. Her strength and dex are 18 and her intelligence is 16, all by 6th level. This is a hybrid spellcasting / melee build that focuses on buffing oneself before or at the beginning of combat with control options, and limited healing, but it's there, and an overall focus on surviving and operating well in a swamp, and by default in a variety of other environments. So she's basically someone you put into a variety of roles in the party, provided she doesn't have to heal a large amount of damage in combat, she can do it. And also, this is all about flavor, so I may be sacrificing some utility or optimization because she has to drip with haggy flavor. Backstory, because backstory. And if you don't want to listen to backstory, why are you listening to this video? But no, you can skip to this timestamp here if you want to. Most people don't remember their early childhood, but Hagatha recalls her first moment of life, 3 years ago. Laying in a murky pond, the water was thick and warm, inviting. She gently floated to a mossy bank and arose, standing on the spongy ground, her claws and green rubbery skin glistening in the moonlight. Her attention was drawn to the sky, and she squinted against the brightness of the full moon, her brand new eyes adjusting slowly. But adjust they did. And transfixed by the blue-white light above her, she saw dark shapes move swiftly across the surface of the moon, forming eyes and a kind black smile, and it began speaking. The moon told her that she is a swamp may, created to keep the natural balance of death, decay, and rebirth, without which the world would spin out of control and all life everywhere would perish. The moon said it would be her guide, and her face would bear the mark of the moon's protection and service. She would learn of the swamp and creatures within it, and to this end she was sent a companion to teach her of the world, its ways, and of natural magic. 'Cause familiar. She may have been made from slime and rot, but she is a benevolent guardian of natural things. She has a crescent moon shape burned into her forehead, a symbol whose match is also on the belly of her cockroach familiar, Charles. Shortly after Hagatha's emergence from her birthing pond, she began to explore the swamp and surrounding forest with Charles, and in the process met dryads, sprites, and a family of intelligent wolves. One particularly worldly pixie made fun of her for looking like a hag, with her black root-like hair and green slimy skin, so she took the name to spite him. It turned out to fit her well, and a friendly dryad even began calling her Hagatha, which made her cackle and shiver with glee. After one particularly tense interaction with a woodcutting camp, though, she noticed that bipeds tended to wear coverings. So she thought that if she was going to explore further and learn as much as she can, she should also do so, on the off chance that she might meet someone who is unaccustomed to public nudity. So she wears the bare minimum to allow her free movement when running or swimming, though she's found a definite purpose for some articles of clothing to keep her comfortable while moving swiftly. She is, after all, quite athletic, and enjoys climbing trees and leaping upon creatures from above, or surprising them from below while lying in the muck. In fact, she's quite fond of the look on people's faces when she surprises them with her black claws extended and eyes wide in excitement. Upon joining an adventuring group, she may learn that people tire quickly of such games. She doesn't know that yet. She'll have to find out through experimentation. She has also learned that her appearance tends to shock non-fae in general, even when not leaping out of hiding, or when not nude. So she tends to cover as much of her green skin and ratty hair as she can before venturing far from her home. Background. Alright, I admit, I kind of gave up. The background we chose is just one of convenience because I wanted an ability that it had. It's not reflective of her actual past because I'm writing her past anyway. Anyway, it's Song of the Deep. Gives you water breathing and one attribute bump that has to be strength, con, or charisma. It also gives you training in athletics and the ocean lore skill. Athletics is perfect for her because she's going to be in melee. Water breathing makes sense because she's living in a swamp. And ocean lore doesn't make any sense at all. I think swamp lore fits a lot better. So if your GM's cool, just replace ocean lore with swamp lore. If not, just take swamp lore because you should have it. It is a rare background. So if your GM doesn't allow it, then just take Sodden Scavenger. It applies, and it says, you've managed to eke out an existence in the storm-racked Sodden lands and have become an expert at scavenging food and tools. Choose 2 ability boosts. One must be to Constitution or Wisdom, and one is a free ability boost. You're trained in the Survival skill and the Swamp Lore skill. Those make perfect sense. And you gain the Forager skill feat. Also makes perfect sense. So you could easily take that and it would work just fine. Besides, you're going to be able to hold your breath for a really long time. So you don't really need to be able to breathe underwater. I just personally love that for adventures that aren't just themed oceany or watery, but there's like water everywhere. So you could just like use it to swim along and surprise enemies, or as an alternate means of escape, like you can help guide allies through it. Anyway, Ancestry Heritage. This is a bit odd, but I'm okay with that. This character looks like a stereotypical hag. Green skin, big claws, black slimy hair, 1 green eye, 1 purple eye, so naturally, her ancestry is Lizardfolk. Just use the system for what you need. Because of her origin story, the ancestry that overall fits the right theme is flesh warp. Because she was created from the use of magic and organic tissue, but lizardfolk have a wide assortment of abilities that work mechanically, the way a swamp hag would or could work. And lizardfolk, or Iruxi, are freaking cool. They get a lot of physical abilities that are pretty rare. They start with a bonus to strength, wisdom, and 1 other attribute, and a penalty to intelligence. Since I made a witch, I just took the optional boost 2 attributes instead, because screw that lowering intelligence. We're focusing on the physical for the most part. So we're also going to take the option of reducing 2 attributes to boost 1 so that strength and dex can still be as high as possible. You can see all that on the character sheet. After all, we are making a melee-ish, pseudo-melee person character. And Iruxi get claws by default that do 1d4 slashing damage and have the agile and finesse traits. This is going to be our primary source of damage. We will also get primal spells so we can enhance our natural weapons and always have at least 1 hand free for casting. You also get the breath control general feat for free, so even if you don't have water breathing, it'll probably be okay. This changes the amount of time you can hold your breath with this particular character based on their constitution from 7 rounds to 17.5 minutes. God. Alright, heritage. In order to amplify the nature-like aspects of our character, we will take the Ardande Versatile Heritage from Rage of Elements, the plant people, which says, in part, you might have green mossy skin, vines that grow from your head instead of hair, or thin appendages that resemble twigs. Great. We also gain low light vision. Feel free to make yourself as plant-like or mushroom-like as you wish. You just be covered in little toadstools, your head could be a giant mushroom cap, I don't know, whatever. First level Ancestry feat. We'll take Parthenogenic Hatchling, which says, you were hatched from an unfertilized egg during hard times for your people, and you are a biological copy of your mother. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against diseases. Each of your successful saving throws against a disease reduces its stage by 2 or by 1 for a virulent disease. Each critical success against an ongoing disease reduces its stage by 3 or by 2 for a virulent disease. You take damage only every 2 hours from thirst and every 2 days from starvation, rather than every hour and every day. You can only take this at first level. Now, obviously, we were born of magic, not an egg. So this is just a special blessing that nature has given us to resist disease because we live in a freaking swamp. It just makes sense to me. And actually, not even just living in a swamp. You're from the swamp. You're made from swamp materials. So yes, you should at least be able to resist diseases from the thing you're made of. First class level, witch! Obviously! That's why you're watching this video! You get a lot of stuff for the first level of witch, which may be why your weapon, armor, training, and saves are less than spectacular. You get spellcasting, hex cantrips, which are weird and cool, a patron, which is awesome, and a familiar. So first, patron, because it sort of dictates almost everything else. We're a creation of hag magic and a manifestation of decay, risen from the elements of a swamp. Mosquito witch, duh, it's a no-brainer. This is the patron that will allow us to emphasize our theme in more ways, like summoning biting and stinging insects as the hex. And the primal spell list also feeds our theme with acid splash, puff of poison, root reading, tanglefoot, magic fang, pest form, mosquitoes or cockroaches, because that's weird. Swamp call, sudden blight, and vomit swarm. I love that spell. What? You want some apple juice? And our familiar. He has speech, independence, and flight. Speaking of independence. He also has a tiny little top hat and waistcoat. He's Charles the Proper Roach. That's right, madam. I believe you heard me. You are not to harm those halflings. I am under no onus to explain my reasons to you. It simply must be so. And you have to listen to him because he's the mouthpiece for your patron. Okay, also, Charles is how we've learned so much about nature and spellcasting. He's like our friend and mentor. He's been there with us since we were created, sent to be our guide like a disgusting little Jiminy Cricket. Have fun role-playing this one. This is a familiar that I would not give the role-playing up to your GM. Totally make a personality for him, make him like super anal about getting dirty, but he's also still a cockroach, so he still has to do cockroachy things. He just like detests it, and he always has handkerchiefs. If you could have like an ever clean handkerchief, that would be his most prized possession. Okay, if you wanted to, at like 6th level, technically you could trade him in for a spell slime because spell slimes are useful. But then you'd be giving up Charles the Proper Roach. Although I guess you could like just say that the spirit evolved into a spell slime, so he's Charles the Proper Slime. I don't know, the little top hat and cane? Sure. Obviously, Swamp Hag. 2nd level class feat, basic lesson of protection. The power of nature protects us. You gain the Blood Ward Hex, and your familiar learns Mage Armor. Mage Armor lasts until the next time you make your daily preparations, which is always convenient, and gives a little bump to your AC. And the Hex you get, Blood Ward, is a small bump to your AC, but you can also put it on an ally if you want, because this build is able to provide support and in a lot of different functions, or just put all the AC on yourself to just go dish out a beating. I think that my favorite kind of build is one like this. It's versatile mechanically and extreme in some way, like being a gross swamp hag. I wish I were a swamp hag. 2nd level feat. Sorry, 2nd level free archetype feat. Because free archetype, everyone should play with it. Kineticist dedication. Yeah, kind of weird. We're just jumping all over the place to stay on theme. With Kineticist dedication, you get the Kineticist's kinetic aura, the channel elements action, and elemental blast. We need to choose an element for this blast and for the aura out of air, earth, fire, metal, water, or wood. I thought about wood for armor and the whole decaying aspect, but we're getting the decaying aspect through different means. And we're born from a swamp and spend our time submerged in water and communing with the spirits of the swamp and of water. So water, yeah, we're taking water. The blast isn't going to be our focus, so this stage of the archetype is just a stepping stone. A feat tax, which I really don't like, but sometimes it happens, and it has to. 2nd level skill feat, Terrain Stalker. 'Cause sneaky, stealthy witch bitch. Which says, select one type of difficult terrain from the following list. Rubble, snow, or underbrush. While undetected by all non-allies in that type of terrain, you can sneak without attempting a stealth check as long as you move no more than 5 feet and do not move within 10 feet of an enemy at any point during your movement. This also allows you to automatically approach creatures to within 15 feet while avoiding notice during exploration as long as they aren't actively searching or on guard. Because we're a protector of nature and nature's cycles, we'll often need to move carefully through natural environments. It's where we were born. This feat is generally useful in a lot of campaigns, and you can take it multiple times for the other 2 difficult terrains later if you like, for more flexibility. But we're going to take undergrowth, obviously. But it totally fulfills the fantasy of, I'm a monstrous hag who sneaks through swamps to ambush travelers. Who talks like that, apparently. 3rd level. We get access to 2nd rank spells, and we increase one of our skills to expert. We'll choose stealth because we're a sneaky bitch. We creep through foliage and swamplands to grab someone and drag them under the water and drown them. 3rd level general feat. We'll take Ancestral Paragon. For Moldersoul, because there is no other general feat at 3rd level besides Ancestral Paragon. That's just the only option. Ever. Moldersoul says, your connection to elemental wood asserts itself in the form of decay, like forgotten logs left to rot, and the char that remains after a forest fire. Cycles of devastation clearing away what was to make room for the next generation of life. You gain the Decompose action. Perfect for this character. Which means once per day, energy seeps out of you, decaying everything within a 5-foot emanation and causing plants and foliage to age and decompose. Natural difficult terrain is destroyed, and creatures in the area with the plant or wood trait take 1d6 void damage with a basic fortitude save against your class DC or spell DC. That damage sucks, but that's not why we're taking it. Why doesn't it ever increase? It's just crap. Anyway, so this will be useful occasionally for removing terrain that's in your way in combat, or while in exploration mode. But obviously it's for theme, it's flavor, and totally dramatic if you're just trying to make an impression. Yes, it's not mechanically optimal. I know, I don't care. If you wanted to, instead, you could take Ambersoul here. It's another Ancestry feat, and it's more useful in combat. It says, your elemental heritage is reflected in the oils and fragrances of plants, in tree resin that fossilizes into amber, or in the gentle smell of a flower. Sticky golden sap runs through your veins instead of blood. Each time a creature deals slashing or piercing damage to you with a melee strike, your sap coats its weapon or unarmed attack. The creature takes a -1 circumstance penalty on attack rolls with that weapon or unarmed attack until the end of its turn. I'd like to flavor this as your blood being swamp slime instead of sticky sap, sort of indicating that it makes the grip of your opponent's weapon hand slippery and requiring extra effort to hold on, distracting them from using their full force on the attack. Because your blood is slimy. Anyway, it's more useful than Moldersoul, technically, especially in a fight. And it's still flavorful. It's just not as on point for the theme of Swamp Hag as literally decaying everything around you. I'm picturing you like meeting in a tavern, because everybody does that, and you just like erode the table in front of you as an introduction to the party. 4th level class feat, base Kinesis, Kineticist Archetype feat. Gives you the base Kinesis impulse. Go figure. It's a little stunted in power when compared to a full Kineticist, but it still means that you now have power over water. You can destroy it, move it, or create it from nothing. This can be useful for people to always have water on hand to drink, if you're playing in those god-awful survival games, or to keep cool, or if, say, you're caught in a trap of some sort that affects someone's ability to breathe normally, say a chamber is slowly filling up with gas and it's airtight, you can fill it with water and breathe just fine. And maybe your friends could too, who knows? Let's hope so. Finally, and my favorite purposes, keeping your swamp nice and muddy. Or making anywhere you stay for the night into a mini swamp. It's great. Just add a couple of armfuls of leaves and branches to the area, fill it with water, use your decompose power, and just rest under the filthy water all night. So comfy, just like home. 4th level archetype feat. I gotta stop laughing to talk. Through the gate Kineticist archetype feat, which lets us choose a Kineticist feat. We'll choose Ocean's Balm. It takes one action and says, a blessing of the living seas salves wounds and douses flames. Touch a willing living creature, it regains 1d8 hit points and gains resistance 2 to fire for 1 minute. If it has persistent fire damage, it can attempt a flat check to remove it with especially appropriate help. The target is temporarily immune to healing from Ocean's Balm for 10 minutes. And every 2 character levels past first, the healing increases by 1d8. So when we take this at 4th level, we're healing 2d8, and it'll go up to 3d8 by the time this build is done, at 6th level. This is actually some nice healing, because it replaces our need to take the medicine skill, and we can heal people outside of combat. Every person can be healed in our group every 10 minutes. It's also useful in combat in a pinch, and of course, helps against fire. Overall, it's a very good kinetic impulse feat. And something I just noticed is that it says they're immune to the healing, but you can still use it to remove persistent fire damage repeatedly, or to give them resistance to fire. It's just a good feat. I really like Kineticist. There's so much flexibility now if you add in Kineticist. Anyway, 4th level skill feat. Alchemical crafting. You're a bog witch. You have to have alchemy. So we'll learn the recipes: sticky algae bomb, skunk bomb, energy mutagen, and bestial mutagen. Now I know that we have to have downtime to be able to make these, but it's super flavorful for this build. You brew your own bestial mutagens to kick ass with your claws. Great. Bestial mutagen at this level gives you an unarmed claw attack. Doesn't matter. A bite attack that does 1d6 damage and gives you a +1 on unarmed attack rolls and athletics checks. All the better to hug you with, my dear. And a -1 on AC and -2 to reflex saves, and it lasts a minute. It gets better as you level. You can learn more recipes. You can also take Cauldron with this if you want to, because that's also really on theme. It just doesn't do a lot. It's frustrating. Remaster's coming. The energy mutagen alchemical goodie gives you resistance to 1 type of elemental damage and vulnerability to 3 others, and it lasts a minute. It isn't super necessary, but if you know what you're going to be fighting, taking 5 less damage from energy attacks that thing deals is really good. Skunk bomb. This does what you think it does. It does poison damage, and it can make an enemy sickened or slowed and sickened, or on a critical failure on their fortitude save. So, uncommon. They're sickened, slowed, and blinded. They also smell terrible, so they're easier to track, and it fits a swamp hag. Just collect poisonous gases in a little pouch and throw your poo bomb at them. The algae bomb also really fits the flavor, and it says, attacks with this bomb don't take the normal penalties and restrictions for being used in water or underwater. A sticky algae bomb deals the listed poison damage, which isn't a lot. Many types grant an item bonus to attack rolls. In addition, the target is tagged by the bioluminescent substance and leaves a highly visible trail for the next hour. The DC to track a creature using this trait is 19, but the trail only appears in water. But the reason you take it is for those niche moments when you can be amazing in an underwater setting. If not, just throw the skunk bomb at them. You're already good at tracking anyway. Cool little tools. I like alchemy. Much better than talismans. 5th level. We gain access to 3rd rank spells, and we increase one of our skills. I'll be going over all the spells soon. We'll increase nature to expert because we'll need it for our next level skill feat. 5th level ancestry feat, Ambersoul, if you didn't take it before. If you did, I'd take either Read the Roots or Treespeech. Read the Roots says, the root systems of trees are a far-reaching network of information, and you know how to access them and extract their secrets. You seek within 30 feet using tremor sense, an imprecise sense, instead of one of your own senses. You can also detect subjects touching or burrowing through the surface you are standing on in this way. Obviously pretty cool. But know your GM with this selection. If they don't really give much capability or weight to imprecise senses, because a lot of them don't, then Treespeech is probably the way to go. It says, Your connection to elemental wood allows you to communicate with trees in the universe in Muon, the language of wood elementals. You can ask questions of, receive answers from, and use the diplomacy skill with woody plants like trees and shrubs. You have to have the Muon language first, so think ahead. If you do this, you may want to change out your occultism for diplomacy so that you can actually make use of this ability. 6th level skill feat, we take Spirit Speaker so we can talk to the spirit of an animal or beast that died within the last 1 minute. It's flavorful, sometimes useful, and remember, we are servant of nature and our purpose is to keep the cycle of death, decay, and rebirth on track. So it's entirely within our character's concept of morality to kill an animal or beast to gain information if it were for an important purpose. It'd have to be important enough. I'll leave that to you. 6th level class feat, Assassin Dedication. Yeah, never taken this before. Kind of weird, but whatever. So Assassin usually means special training in a dark and evil endeavor, or a sneaky ninja person. But for us, it's something that we've been learning about and training for since the day we were spawned. We learned to stalk and hunt prey, surprising and killing them more effectively, all the better to serve nature's purpose to continue the cycle. So, it says, you've trained to assassinate your foes, and you do so with tenacity and precision. You gain the Mark for Death activity. Mark for Death is a 3-action activity that requires that you be able to see and hear the creature you intend to mark. This lasts until the mark dies or you use Mark for Death again. You gain a +2 circumstance bonus to perception checks to seek your mark, and on deception checks to feint against your mark. Your agile and finesse weapons and unarmed attacks gain the backstabber and deadly d6 weapon traits. Unarmed attacks gain this, that's great. When you're attacking your mark. If the weapon or unarmed attack already has the deadly trait, increase the size of the deadly damage die by 1 step instead of giving it deadly d6. So I want to pause here for a sec. So I had the option of focusing on the original intention of Eldritch Nails, which is to cast your hexes through your nails, but to do that reliably, you actually have to go primary Magus. And then you're not casting hex cantrips every round, and it doesn't feel as much like a witch. And I wanted to make the best melee version of a regular witch that I could. So yeah, you can't channel spells through your nails, but you're still doing lots of extra damage with your nails, so it's still cool. 6th level archetype feat. From the assassin archetype, we'll take poison resistance. It just makes sense to me that we would gain a strong affinity and kinship with the nature of rot and the things that would be in a swamp, like poisonous little frogs. Your body has become fortified against toxins. You gain poison resistance equal to half your level, and you gain a +1 status bonus to saving throws against poisons. So we have poison resistance 3. He owns me. All right, so let's go on to tips of how you could roleplay this. First off, you're only 3 years old. That's weird. You're innocent in so many ways. You just don't know about people. You're new to dealing with others, and you have a bias against humans and other bipeds with very few exceptions. Maybe your adventuring party, hopefully. You're also often horrified with how people treat each other. You believe that if a person or thing is causing suffering, it needs to be removed to make room for others. And people make each other suffer all the time. That's not working harmoniously. This would be a very lawful, neutral sort of character. Care about order and balance in general, but not particularly good or evil. Life is simple to Hagatha. All returns to the cycle, and the cycle causes rebirth. Any death you cause will only feed more life. Suffering and selfishness are the blight on the world that needs to be stopped, not death. It's an interesting outlook for a character because she's sort of friendly with death. Yeah, that's just a thing. That happens. That's cool. It happens as part of everything else. You couldn't be alive unless other things died. Most times, this character could be found listening to the insects or speaking to the roots of trees, trying to understand the messages that nature has to offer, and sharing them with those few who ask. I don't think she'd naturally offer. First off, she's used to thinking only of herself and Charles. She's led a rather selfish life. So people will have to actually seek you out to get information, like a hag that lives out in the woods somewhere. You might add, like, you have to make special flavorful deals with someone to do what they want. Like, even if it's just healing, just be like, okay, I need your firstborn child. Okay, fine. I'll settle for your pet. You're familiar. Oh, and you prefer to eat creatures that died of natural causes, but if you had to kill it yourself, that's fair game. Also, you see no difference between eating the flesh of a cow, dog, human, or ogre. You just like meat. Character quotes. The first one is... Next is...
What is it you want? More wealth? More drive or destruction? To make others suffer for your whims? I must set your life free to feed the reeds.
And, you know, when healing somebody, you could say something like,
What grace nature has given me passes to you.
You say something very friendly in a very creepy way. Or like, you're being assigned a task, like you pick up a quest.
A vampire, you say? I need no payment. Its death is my reward.
Or,
Waiter, did the cow that gave this beef die of natural causes? Did it have a happy life? Is this free-range chicken?
She's the hipster hag, what? Okay, so now the final thoughts and ideas, spell selection. Now all of these spells were chosen for swampy flavor or for direct combat application. Your support comes from healing others, destroying difficult terrain, creating difficult terrain, and making others sickened, poisoned, and blinded. Cantrips. First, your Hex cantrip, Buzzing Bites. This does 1d4 per spell rank, and each time you sustain the spell, they take the damage again. It can also make them sickened, and if you needed to, you could cast it on more than one person and still attack, because it takes one action. I really like the repeat casting of Hex cantrips. It's a really fun idea. Acid Splash we take in case you actually need acid damage at some point. This is also your best ranged option if you have to stay away from enemies. I guess you also have your Kinetic Blast. And swamps can be highly acidic, so taking Acid Splash makes sense to me. Just have a natural affinity with these things. Healing Plaster. So you can use nature instead of medicine. Obviously you won't need this after level 4, but you can still keep it. After all, your healing impulse can't help anything but hit point damage and fire, so this cantrip is still useful. Puff of Poison. For when you're up in someone's face and you don't want to attack with all of your actions, this is a good option for some extra damage that's easier to land than your second attack. Because you're not a primary fighter. The Root Reading cantrip detects medium or larger creatures in a 30-foot emanation, and tells you if any passed by in the last hour, and gives you a bonus to track them, and if they're unnoticed by you nearby, they're instead undetected, and you know they're there. This is just a flexible, neat spell. Next cantrip, Tanglefoot. Because slowing someone's speed is occasionally great, and immobilize is even better. You can flavor this as like a long whip of slimy green algae lashing out from her. Or like really long tongue. You don't have to have like an ancestry for it. It's the spell. You vomit out a tongue of slime to trip somebody. Okay. First level spells. Magic Fang. Duh. Make your claws deal more damage and give you a bonus to hit. Pest Form. Because reconnaissance is a thing. And because you can gross people out by turning into a cockroach. Mage Armor. From your Lesson of Protection. You'll probably cast this at the beginning of every day. Swamp Call. I was a little surprised this was a first level spell. You make a 10-foot burst within 30 foot... Wow. Within 30 feet, you make a 10-foot burst of difficult terrain. And you reduce the movement speeds of everyone in it, except swimming. And you make them flat-footed or off guard. this is great, especially if you're in melee. Push them back in and then jump in yourself. You're at home in gooey ground. Second level spells. Quench. You can use it to hurt fire elementals, counterspell fire spells, douse magical fires, or most importantly in my games, automatically extinguish all non-magical fires in the area. There have been so many forest fires started in my games. I don't know why. Just so many fire mages, and I love forests, so there's always greenery everywhere. Yeah, they've pissed off some dryads and treants. Anyway, all of these you can flavor with, they get doused in stinky water, like the healing kinetic impulse too. You get doused in smelly algae, and you heal. Anyway, second level spell, Sudden Blight. Sudden Blight. It's an AoE damage spell, and that by itself is a reason to take this. But it is also utility. It can rot all small and tiny non-creature plants in the 20-foot burst, which also removes difficult terrain, cover, and concealment if it's from plants. And it's decay. If I played this character and memorized this and it didn't need to get used that day, I would use it anyway, just to make some plants die. It's totally natural. You're a force of nature. Vomit Swarm. The best spell for flavor. I really like the visuals of this spell. You belch forth a swarm of tiny magical vermin of your choosing. Rats? Sure. Mosquitoes? Wasps? Roaches? Why not? It's another AoE damage spell, and it also sickens creatures that fail their saves. And maybe the players at your table, too. Third level spells. Gasping Marsh. This is another AoE spell that deals damage, and it can also cause sickened and persistent poison damage. Any creature it affects can only be affected once every minute, but the strengths of this thing are that it's an invisible effect, and you can move it every turn. So this can lead to sickening, damaging, or outright killing a huge number of weaker enemies. Like in an army. You bring the spirit of the swamp to their souls. Not everyone can handle that. Especially those commoners. No, she only kills people really if it's necessary for some reason, like they're making other people suffer. Or they're somewhere they shouldn't be, like alone in a swamp. Stinking Cloud. This is a great third level spell. Causes concealment, which can be nice, and it causes sickened and potentially slowed. I love that we can hold our breath for so long because we can walk. No, that's my dice. Anyway, we can hold our breath and we can walk into it and not be affected. I know that's not technically in the spell, but that just makes sense, at least for avoiding the sickened and slowed. Because if you're not breathing it in, how could you get sick from it? Dive and Breach. This is an interesting third level spell. It does damage in a small area twice, 2 different areas. But the coolest part of the spell is its tactical applications. Stuck behind a wall of bad guys and you need to get to an enemy caster who's flying behind them? Jump into a pool of non-existent water next to the bad guys, then teleport to a surface near the caster. You might deal damage to them with a splash, or even leap on them and claw the shit out of them while you both fall through the air. I appreciate you guys paying attention to these videos. They're just so much fun. And I like talking to all of you on Discord and in the comments too. Thank you for coming. If you liked the video, giving it a thumbs up and leaving a comment will help boost its visibility to the algorithm gods. So YouTube will know that there's good content here. And to our patron people, I have to say thank you very much. Patrons get access to unique creations and giveaways, and I just couldn't do this without them. They also have a private chat and other perks. If you'd like to see the benefits or just want to support the channel, click on the Patreon link in the description. This build's walkthrough is on our website, and a PDF of this character's fillable character sheet already built for 6th level, link in the description. If you want to make sure to catch the next video I make, hitting the subscribe button is a good way to bookmark the page so you can remember to check back later and see what I've done, or hit the notification bell and it'll just pop up in your face. And remember, the smell of freshly cut grass plays a role in plant communication and plant defense against being eaten. functioning as a distress signal warning other plants of imminent danger. So that lawn of freshly cut grass is screaming to the other plants, "I'm dying and it's coming for you!" You can see other build videos here, or my archetype videos here. Okay, thanks, bye.